Ever imagine the darkest corners of reality where facts eclipse fiction? Envision a realm where the past murmurs terrifying tales, where truth sends shivers down your spine. We're about to unearth unsettling facts shrouded in the shadows of history. Facts so chilling they make even the bravest hearts tremble. Are you prepared for the horror that's real? Steel yourself as we traverse into the realm of tangible terror. Horror has been part of human history since the beginning. It started with ancient civilizations telling scary tales that were actually lessons in morality, using supernatural elements as metaphors. For instance, in Africa, the Bushmen spoke of a massive snake, the Grootslang, that would draw its victims into a diamond-filled cave. In Greece, people feared Medusa, a creature with snake hair that could turn men into stone. In Scandinavia, the undead creatures called Draugr were believed to protect their treasures from the living. Through the years, these horror stories grew and changed. They were brought to life in literature by authors like Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Shelley. Poe delved into psychological horror while Shelley introduced science fiction horror with her book Frankenstein. Later, horror found its way to cinema with movies like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Horror, as a genre, essentially helps us face our fears and the unknown. It's deeply rooted in our culture and continues to shape our fears and nightmares. The Victorian era, a period known for its grim and ghastly horrors. This period, from 1837 to 1901, was rife with disconcerting phenomena. One cannot ignore the penny dreadfuls' influence on horror. Sold for a penny each, these tales of terror were wildly popular among the working class and brought horror to the masses. The Victorian era was also the golden age of Gothic literature, merging elements of horror and romance. With gloomy settings and supernatural beings, these novels explored human nature's darker side. Notable authors include Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Shelley. Poe's tales created a sense of dread, his works like The Telltale Heart embodying Victorian horror. Shelley, however, introduced us to Frankenstein's creature. Her novel, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, explores themes of creation and the fear of the unnatural. These authors transformed the genre, making it a societal commentary and reflecting our deepest fears. The Victorian era gave birth to horror as we know it today, sowing seeds of dread in our collective consciousness. Opening. The 20th century, an era that redefined horror. The last century, a period of unparalleled change, brought with it a new dawn for the horror genre. This was an age where the boundaries of fear were not just pushed, but shattered, as horror evolved beyond the simple ghost stories and Gothic tales of the Victorian era. In the early 20th century, the rise of the horror film became a significant milestone. The advent of cinema gave storytellers a new medium to explore, and they did not shy away from the macabre. Silent films such as Nosferatu and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari captivated audiences, introducing a new level of terror that was both visual and visceral. The influence of the two world wars on horror cannot be overstated. The horrors of war, the disillusionment, and the atrocities witnessed by many were reflected in the genre. The monsters were no longer supernatural entities but humans and the dark corners of their minds, a chilling reminder of the capacity for evil that exists in the world. This era also witnessed the birth of psychological horror. Pioneers like Alfred Hitchcock and Rod Serling masterfully used suspense and suggestion, rather than graphic violence, to incite fear. Their works not only entertained, but also forced us to confront our deepest anxieties and the darkness within ourselves. As the century progressed, horror continued to evolve, reflecting societal fears and anxieties. The Cold War brought about fears of nuclear annihilation, which were manifested in films featuring giant, radiation-mutated creatures. The rise of technology and the internet sparked fears of loss of privacy and identity, and these anxieties too found their way into the horror narrative. In essence, the 20th century transformed horror into a mirror of society, a reflection of our collective fears. It showed us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the ones hiding under our beds, but the ones lurking within us. Closing. Modern horror has made us question our reality, pushing the boundaries of our deepest fears. Now it's time to revisit the most chilling facts we've uncovered. Let's plunge into the abyss of our exploration, back to where it all began, the dawn of horror. Remember, the primal fear that gripped our ancestors wasn't just a product of their vivid imaginations, but their very real struggles against nature and the unknown. Their tales of monstrous beasts and vengeful spirits were their way of making sense of the world around them, crystallizing their fears into stories that have endured the test of time. Fast forward to the Victorian era where horror took on a new face. The ghostly apparitions and Gothic castles of this era were not simply figments of an overactive imagination, but reflections of a society grappling with rapid scientific and social change. The specter of death, so prevalent due to the high mortality rates, was transformed into chilling tales of the undead, reminding us just how deeply entrenched horror is in our collective psyche. Then, we move to the birth of modern horror, a period marked by a shift from supernatural to psychological terror. The monsters were no longer external, but within us. From serial killers to deranged scientists, horror began to explore the capacity for evil within the human mind, pushing the boundaries of what we consider terrifying. This evolution of horror underscores the genre's ability to adapt and reflect our deepest fears. And let's not forget the chilling fact that horror does not exist in a vacuum. It is a mirror, reflecting society's anxieties and fears. From the atomic age's fear of nuclear annihilation, embodied in monstrous creatures, to modern-day concerns about technology run amok, horror has consistently served as a barometer for our collective nightmares. So, as we peel back the layers of horror, we see that it's not just about fright or gore. It's about understanding what scares us, why it scares us, and how those fears shape our reality. These facts remind us that horror is not just a genre, but a mirror to our darkest fears and anxieties. So, are you still wondering about the dark corners of reality? We've taken a journey together, haven't we? From the earliest moments of horror, a genre born out of our collective need to confront our deepest fears, to the Victorian era, where horror became a mirror reflecting societal anxieties. We've seen how the genre evolved, shifting and growing with us, always adapting to the times. In the modern era, horror has become more than just a means of entertainment. It's a lens through which we examine the darkest parts of our psyche, the things that make us question our humanity. The monsters we've created, the ghosts we've summoned, the demons we've battled. They're all projections of our own fears and insecurities. The most chilling facts we've uncovered only prove one thing. Sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that come from within us. They're a testament to our capacity for imagination, our ability to conjure up the most terrifying scenarios and creatures. And yet, they're also a testament to our resilience, our ability to face these fears and come out the other side stronger. So, keep exploring the world of horror, keep delving into the dark corners of reality. It's through understanding our fears that we can learn to overcome them, and who knows, you might even find that the journey is more thrilling than you ever imagined. Remember, sometimes, fact can be scarier than fiction. Until next time, keep exploring the dark corners of reality.